Picture the largest crowd you've ever seen, then multiply it by 100. An entire nation standing at the foot of a mountain in the desert. And the mountain is on fire. Smoke pours off it like a furnace. The ground is shaking under their feet. And over the thunder, a trumpet is blasting, growing louder and louder, and no human being is blowing it. This is the moment God speaks the 10 Commandments out loud. But before he gives a single command, he says one sentence first. One line. And almost everyone skips it. Once you see it, you'll never read the 10 Commandments the same way again. Rewind 3 months. This crowd walked out of Egypt as slaves, 400 years of brick pits and whips. And then, in a single night, freedom. They watched the sea split open in front of them, walked through on dry ground between two walls of water, and watched it crash shut behind them on the most powerful army on earth. Since then, it's been desert, blistering days, freezing nights, bitter water, bread they can't explain falling out of the sky every morning. And now, in the 3rd month, the horizon changes. They arrive at the base of a mountain called Sinai, the same mountain where Moses once stood barefoot before a burning bush and heard God make a promise. You will worship me on this mountain. The promise is about to come true in a way no one is ready for. Moses goes up, and God gives him a message for the people. Listen to how tender it is. You've seen what I did to the Egyptians, God says, and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Obey my voice, and you'll be my treasured possession among all the peoples of the earth. I carried you on eagle's wings. I brought you to myself. Before there's a single rule, there's a relationship. Hold on to that. It's going to matter. Then the instructions get strange. Wash your clothes. Consecrate yourselves. Be ready on the 3rd day. And Moses is told to put a boundary around the mountain, because on the 3rd day, God himself is coming down onto it. Anyone who crosses that line, man or animal, dies. This is not a metaphor. For 2 days, an entire nation scrubs and waits and stares at that fence line, knowing that on the other side of it, the creator of the universe is about to touch the earth. The mountain is about to become the most dangerous place on the planet. The 3rd morning comes, thunder and lightning, a cloud so thick it swallows the summit. The whole mountain is wrapped in smoke because the Lord has descended on it in fire. And the text says the entire mountain trembled greatly, an earthquake and a firestorm at the same time, and standing at the boundary line, an entire nation trembling with it. But the strangest sound that morning isn't the thunder, it's the trumpet. A human trumpet blast starts loud and fades as the breath runs out. This one does the opposite. Exodus says the sound of the trumpet grew louder and louder. No lungs behind it, no musician on the mountain. It's a herald. The sound ancient people knew meant one thing. The king is arriving. Heaven is announcing that God is stepping into the world, and every second the sound grows, he's getting closer. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable, because God doesn't hand Moses a scroll to read. Out of the fire and the smoke, God speaks, audibly, to millions of people at once. The only time in history an entire nation heard the voice of God together. And what's the first thing that voice says? Not, you shall have no other gods before me. That's second. The first thing God says is this: I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. That's the line, the one almost everyone skips. We jump straight to the rules, but God didn't. Before a single command, he reminds them who he is and what he has already done. I am yours. I rescued you. You were slaves, and I carried you out. The 10 Commandments don't open with a demand. They open with a rescue. And that order changes the meaning of everything that follows. But first, listen to what God actually said, because these 10 sentences are more surgical than we remember. The first 4 commands are about God himself. No other gods, because the God who split the sea won't share your heart with rivals. No carved images, because no statue you control could ever capture the God who just set a mountain on fire. Don't empty his name of its weight, and keep the Sabbath, 1 day in 7 to stop working, because you are no longer slaves, and slaves never got a day off. Rest itself was a gift only free people could receive. The last 6 turn toward your neighbor. Honor your father and mother. Do not murder. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. And then the strange one, the command no court on earth could ever prosecute. Do not covet. Don't even want what belongs to someone else. Do you see what that last command does? It reaches past your hands and into your heart. You can go your whole life without stealing a thing and still ache with envy every time you scroll. You can keep the other 9 on the outside and shatter this one every single day on the inside. Which means the list was never just a legal code. It's a mirror. God isn't only regulating behavior, he's exposing desire. And nobody in that crowd or in this one walks away from this mirror clean. By the way, the text says these words were later written on 2 tablets of stone. We usually picture 5 commands on one and 5 on the other. Scripture never actually says that. Some scholars think both tablets carried all 10, 2 copies, like an ancient treaty, one for each party. The text doesn't settle it. But either way, the point stands. This was a covenant, not a checklist. But now watch what the people do, because this is the part of the story nobody preaches. They break. The thunder, the flames, the trumpet, the smoking mountain, it's too much. The text says they trembled and stood far off, and they beg Moses, "You speak to us and we'll listen," they say. "But don't let God speak to us or we'll die." Think about how staggering that is. These people watched 10 plagues dismantle Egypt. They walked through the sea on dry ground. They've seen more miracles than any generation in history. And 1 minute of God's unfiltered voice, and they're begging him to stop talking.
The very thing every human says they want, proof, a voice, God undeniably showing up. And when it happens, they can't bear it. Not because God was cruel, because God was holy, and they suddenly knew exactly what they were. And Moses answers with one of the strangest lines in Exodus. "Do not fear," he says, "for God has come so that the fear of him stays before your eyes, and you won't sin. Don't fear, so that you may fear." It sounds like a contradiction. It isn't. Moses is saying, don't run from him in terror, but don't you dare treat him as small. And then Moses does what they asked. The people stand far off, and one man walks alone into the thick darkness where God is. They needed someone to go up the mountain for them, someone to stand in the middle. Remember that, because it's the key to the whole story. Now we can close the loop on that skipped line, and here's why it changes everything. If the commandments came first and the rescue came second, the message would be obey, and then I'll save you. Climb, and then you'll be mine. That's the religion of every human heart. Turn the 10 commandments into a ladder, keep enough rules, and earn your way up the mountain to God. But God spoke them in the opposite order. I brought you out of slavery. Now, live like free people. The rescue came first. Grace came first. Israel wasn't saved by keeping the law. They were given the law because they'd already been saved. Obedience was never the price of the relationship. It was the shape of it. And be honest, which order do you live in?
Most of us secretly run the tape backwards. Perform well enough, and maybe God will accept you. Sinai says God rescues people who haven't obeyed a single command yet. And if that's true, then the mirror and the mountain are telling you the same thing. The law shows you what you are. The 10th commandment alone convicts every one of us before breakfast. And the mountain shows you what God is. So holy that unfiltered contact means death, distance, a boundary line, a mediator. That's where Sinai leaves the human race. Far off, trembling, needing someone to go up for us. So don't stop reading at Exodus. Centuries later, God's Son stood on hillsides and spoke without smoke or boundary lines. And he kept every one of these 10 words perfectly, from the heart, the only person who ever has. Then he climbed a different hill, and at the top of that one, the thunder and the darkness and the death that should fall on lawbreakers fell on him instead. The New Testament says it outright. You have not come to a mountain burning with fire and darkness and storm. You have come to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant. The better Moses didn't just go up the mountain for you. He came down it to carry you out of the house of slavery for good. So here's one thing to do this week. Read the 10 commandments again, but don't start at "you shall not." Start at verse 2. Start with what God has done, and let every single command land as the response of a rescued heart, not the resume of an anxious one, because that's the order God spoke them in. At Sinai, the mountain said, "Stay back." At the cross, God said, "Come." Grace spoke first. It always has.